Today I'm going to show you how to make this super easy German apple cake. There's so many different variations, but this one is my all-time favorite. I sell this one at the market, and the special thing about this one is it is completely filled with apples with a little bit of cake, and then the German way, it includes heavy cream. It is so good, and it's going to take you 15 minutes to make. Super easy, super delicious, and it's kind of like a mixture between an apple cake and a butter cake combined. But there's so many different options. If you are interested in learning how to bake authentic German desserts, subscribe below. I will be uploading one video per week teaching you how to make Germany's most beloved cakes, and you can also follow me on my website for more recipes at Raven Cakes Bakery. But let's get started with my authentic German apple cake. We're going to keep mixing this until it's nicely incorporated, and then we're going to add the eggs one piece at a time. Now the key is that this is room temperature, but if I'm being honest, this butter is actually not room temperature, so that's why it's a little bit harder to incorporate. However, it is fairly easy, and this one is, you can make mistakes, but this cake is kind of like a foolproof cake recipe. Okay, now we're going to add just one egg at a time, and we're going to start mixing. You want to keep mixing one egg at a time until it is fully incorporated. You don't want to add all of the eggs at the same time together. If you cannot eat butter, you can also easily substitute this for margarine, because a lot of the German cakes are actually made with margarine instead of butter. Margarine will make it a little bit softer. I like the butter taste, but you definitely can substitute for a plant-based margarine or something like that if you have allergies. So you can see now the egg is coming together. Now we're going to add another egg. Now we're going to slowly incorporate the flour. This time I'm actually using white spelt flour, which works well for this cake. The ideal flour would actually be pastry flour, which in Germany would be the 405 type, but here in America it would be pastry flour. And then also, if you don't have that, you could also use all-purpose flour. So we're going to gently mix it. I like to also sometimes do this beforehand. That way my flour doesn't go everywhere. All right, now we're going to mix and fully incorporate. And then the last piece is we are going to add the rum. See, I like to actually turn my bowl a little bit, because this is a much thicker dough. And it's really fairly little cake batter in comparison to all these apples that we're going to be using. And the batter is really more so as a means to hold your cake together, and you're really just eating a lot of apples. So, alright, looking good. Typically, I like to use dark rum, but I ran out, so I'm using a white rum. In my recipe, I say about 5 tablespoons. I'm very generous. You could probably also add another kind of liqueur in there. But typically I like the darker rum, but I didn't have that today, so we're adding some of that. You could also probably add lemon if you wanted to, but I always like to add some rum flavor at the end. You can also buy rum extract, but why use that if you have real rum? Alright, this is it. This is all you need. Your batter is ready, and now we're just going to peel our apples. Alright, so next we're going to just start cutting all our apples. It's okay if you have some apple skin left on there. I typically like to cut it like that. Oops, I didn't even cut it off well all the way, but you're just going to cut your apples. You can also do cubes, but I actually like to slice them because I just think it looks a lot nicer in the cake. Alright, as you can see, my bowl is completely filled with apples, and that is totally okay, because really this cake is all about the apple and not so much about the cake. And so Typically what I like to do is I like to go from the bottom, because usually when you mix, people always forget the bottom and there's an always like leftover that wasn't incorporated well, but it really is, as you can see, it's going to be a lot of apples and very little cake batter. Okay, so I always like to do a cake pan like this. This is a 10-inch. Put my baking powder on the bottom, and then we're just gonna spray the edges, and then we're gonna fill our cake. See, it's literally just apples. Believe me, it will be so good. So we're gonna evenly distribute all of this in here. It is important that you use a cake pan like that opens up on the side, because once it's done baking, we're gonna actually try to take it off onto a cooling rack, because that way it won't get soggy on the bottom. The oven for about 45 minutes at 375. All right, so now the cake is out of the oven. It's not done yet. What we're gonna do next is we're going to take some cinnamon and sugar. And now we're gonna also take some melted butter, and we're just gonna put it all over the cake. All right. We have a German Butterkuchen mit Äpfeln. Apfelkuchen mit Butter obendrauf, und es schmeckt so lecker. And I also like to use this because the bristles ones, I think that's the word in English, I feel like often loses little pieces, so I like using this one instead. And now we're gonna put it back into the oven for another 10 minutes. In the oven, this is what you're looking for. And you can see there's just so much apples, but this is all the way cooked through. What I do like to do is I don't really like to wait too long. I like to take it out of the spring form, because otherwise it starts getting soggy on the bottom. These, I'm just gonna take it off. All right, this is the tricky part, but I like to slide it off this way. It'll be hot, but it will help your cake not to get soggy on the bottom. So last piece, and then we're just gonna let it cool down, and we're gonna serve it. Okay. We're gonna cut this cake. You could also add powdered sugar, of course, if you want. It is very, very apple heavy. Cut it. And look at this. This is the traditional German way. Put some whipped cream on the side. There you go.